I'm a radio operator aboard a cargo ship that runs the Bering Sea route, a frozen, empty stretch between Alaska and Russia. Out here, voices don't travel far, and radar lies. But at exactly 02:17 every night, I hear the same SOS, same coordinates, same voice. No vessel ever appears on radar. The strangest part? Last night, the voice said my name. When I first took this job, the captain handed me a brown envelope marked Sealed Orders, Radio Ops Only. He said, if you ever hear something that doesn't make sense, don't try to make sense of it. That sounded like superstition until the third night of our run to Vladivostok. Right on schedule, 02:17, the radio crackled with the same three tones. Then a man's voice. Mayday, Mayday, this is the Nurka, coordinates 54 by 17 north, taking on water. Please respond. I checked radar, nothing. I ran a quick frequency trace, nothing. It was a ghost call. When I told the captain, he went pale. He didn't ask for playback, didn't even look at the log. He just said, acknowledge once, then jam it. That phrase, acknowledge once, wasn't standard procedure. So I opened the sealed orders. They were short, 6 bullet points typed on old yellowed paper. Acknowledge signal once. Record, timestamp, archive. Jam within 30 seconds. Do not transmit coordinates. Do not triangulate source. Do not investigate origin under any circumstances. At the bottom, in red ink, violations risk feedback exposure. Maintain silence. Feedback exposure? I'd never heard that term. The captain noticed me reading and tore the page from my hands. If you want to keep your clearance, don't stare into the static, he said. But something about the voice, the way it faded between words, stuck with me. I stayed after shift, playing it back through the narrowband filter. When I slowed the audio by half, something appeared beneath the static. A faint pulsing pattern, Morse code. It spelled out a date, tomorrow's date. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Then I checked the incident logs from last year's run and found the same pattern, the same signal, the same future date. And every time, the ship that logged it vanished. That was when I realized why the rules existed. They weren't about safety, they were containment. Still, I couldn't shake the curiosity. I wanted to know where the signal came from. So I did the one thing the orders forbade. I entered the coordinates into our charting software. The point appeared in the middle of the Bering Sea, inside a blank stretch marked no surface depth zone, no soundings, no undersea topology, no records, just white space. I double-checked against Navy navigation data. That zone didn't exist, not officially. When I looked up, the captain was standing behind me. His eyes were tired but cold. He said quietly, "You just looked into the static, didn't you?" He walked to the radio and switched it off manually. Then he told me something that made my stomach twist. I've heard it too. Every operator does. But once you answer twice, it learns your name. That night I couldn't sleep. The ship creaked in the freezing dark, engines droning. Around 2 o'clock, I woke up to tapping, faint, rhythmic, coming from the bulkhead behind my bunk. 4 beats, pause, 3 beats, SOS. I grabbed my headset, tuned in, silence. But when I put the headphones down, the tapping started again, from inside the earpieces. I checked the time, 02:17. The same voice whispered through the static. Mayday, this is the Nurka. Only this time, The message didn't stop. The voice kept talking. Slow, deliberate. Mayday, this is the Nurka. This is the Nurka calling the Mariner's Gate, our ship's name. Every muscle in my body froze. I ripped off the headset, but the sound kept going, faint, echoing, as if it had sunk into the hull itself. I ran to the bridge, shouting for the captain. He was already there, staring at the radar. There were 2 blips now, side by side, ours and another, exactly the same shape and size, moving perfectly in sync. He turned to me and whispered, "Now you've done it." The second blip began to close in, and when I boosted the signal gain, the ghost frequency repeated just one word: aboard.
The captain cut engine power immediately. The hull groaned as the Mariner's Gate slowed to a crawl. On radar, the second blip hovered 20 meters off our port side, matching our drift pulse for pulse. I stared at it. There was no contact return, no AIS signal, no reflection ping. Just a perfect mirror image of us. Same heading, same speed. "Turn off all transmitters," the captain ordered. "We're dark until further notice." He sounded like he'd rehearsed this moment before. When I asked what it was, he didn't answer. He just opened a drawer, pulled out another envelope, this one stamped with Level 2 Directive for Captain's Eyes Only. He didn't even break the seal. He already knew what it said. "We hold course, no response, no visual contact, no log entries until 0400. The helmsman, a gruff Russian named Oleg, muttered, "You can't ignore something that close." The captain's reply chilled the room. "It's not close, it's parallel, and it's not ours." I switched the radar to thermal overlay, nothing. Switched to sonar, blank. Yet somehow, through the cold steel of the ship, I could hear it. Faint mechanical sounds, propeller churn, distant footsteps, a low murmur of human voices, like a ship running beside us through a thin sheet of reality. Around 2:43, the signal came back. The same voice, clearer this time, cutting through static like glass. "Mayday, Mariner's Gate, this is the Nurka, crew unresponsive, waterline breached." The captain slammed the radio power off again, but before the channel died, another sound leaked through, something like breathing. Heavy, wet, too close. I checked the window. Nothing but black sea and fog. Still, my skin crawled with the feeling that someone or something was pacing us in the dark. By 3 o'clock, our onboard systems started flickering. Navigation froze. Depth sensors looped the same number, 121 meters, except we were in an area that was supposed to be over 300 meters deep. Oleg swore, banging the console. "Depth's wrong, maybe equipment frozen." But when the captain looked at me, I could tell he didn't believe that. He whispered, "It's not wrong, it's changing." The sea itself was rising. Through the porthole, I saw the strangest thing I've ever witnessed, the fog glowing faintly from below, like light from an unseen surface beneath the water. The radio, despite being off, began to hum. Not static, not interference. Voices, dozens of them, overlapping. Male, female, young, old, repeating fragments of Mayday calls, all from different ships. "This is the Pioneer 2. Engine failure. Requesting no horizon. It's above us." Every signal ended the same way, with a low-frequency thrum that my teeth ached. I turned to the captain. "What's happening?" He finally spoke, quietly, almost like confession. "The Nurka disappeared in this sector 20 years ago. It wasn't the first. They send distress calls every month. Same coordinates, same voice. Sometimes it answers back." "Answers back?" I asked. He nodded. "In our voices." The ship shuddered. All lights went out at once.
For 30 seconds, there was nothing, just the sound of metal creaking and waves slapping the hull. Then emergency lights flickered on, painting everything blood red. I checked the radar again. The second blip was gone. But when I looked outside, I saw the outline of a ship gliding past, a ghost silhouette barely visible through fog. Same shape, same antennas, even the same hull markings. Mariner's Gate. I froze. "Captain, it's us." He didn't move, just watched it vanish into the mist. "Radio silence. If it calls again, don't answer." But when I sat back at the console, the headset was already alive. No button pressed. "Mayday, this is the Mariner's Gate." It was my own voice. Every syllable matched the distress transmission I had sent 2 years ago, during a storm that almost capsized a different vessel. But that ship never reported it. No log exists. That's when it hit me. The distress calls weren't coming from lost ships. They were coming from ourselves. Echoes from some other timeline, some mirror layer of the sea. The captain turned pale, realizing the same thing. He whispered, "We've been shadowed since departure." Before I could reply, the fog outside shifted, revealing something vast moving just below the surface, matching our shadow perfectly. And when the sonar came back online, it didn't show a ship. It showed something alive. The sonar screen glowed in the dark, a pale green pulse marking something enormous beneath us. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even shaped like one. The contours were smooth, curved, almost organic. Oleg muttered a prayer under his breath. The captain leaned closer. "Depth 200 meters and rising," I said, my voice barely steady. The reading jumped. 190, 160, 140. Whatever it was ascending. Outside, the water shimmered with bioluminescent light, a cold, electric blue that traced the thing's outline as it came closer. It moved without sound, without waves, as if the ocean itself parted for it. "Kill the engines," the captain whispered. "Let it pass." We drifted in total silence. The fog swallowed the world. Sky, sea, horizon, gone. The only thing left was the pulse from below, steady and inhuman. Then the sonar signal split into 7 separate returns. Not one creature, 7. 7 contacts, same size, same formation, I stammered. "They're following the line," the captain finished. "Always 7, always the same." The crew's fear shifted from panic to something colder, recognition. He pulled a laminated document from the logbook, Protocol Omega-7, the same one from the sealed orders. "If contact is made with submerged formations resembling humanoid mass signatures, engines are to be cut. Maintain radio silence. Do not attempt illumination. Do not observe directly from deck viewports." It wasn't the first time the Navy had seen them. The captain handed the sheet to me. "Now you know why we never respond to those SOS calls." My headset crackled. Another voice cut through the static. This time, it wasn't my own. It was calm, emotionless, almost mechanical. "Observation complete. Alignment stable. Await next surface interval." Then silence. The sonar showed the 7 forms aligning perfectly beneath us, each moving with machine-like precision. For a brief moment, one of them rose so close that its heat signature flared across the monitor. I could make out the shape, humanoid, but impossibly large. Not a diver, not even remotely human. It drifted just under the hull, like it was scanning us. Then a metallic clang echoed through the ship, deep and resonant, like something tapping the underside of our vessel. Oleg grabbed a wrench, as if he could fight whatever was down there. The captain raised a hand. "Stand down. You engage, we all die. We waited. Minutes crawled by. The air turned heavy, like the oxygen had thickened. Then nothing. The 7 contacts slowly descended again, fading into the abyss until sonar returned to normal. Everyone exhaled at once. The captain broke the silence. We're leaving this sector now. Engines roared to life. The fog parted, but not completely. Through the thinning mist, a dark shadow drifted in the opposite direction. It was a ship, or at least it had been. The hull was twisted, half eaten by corrosion, but the name was still legible on its side. Nurka, the same name from the distress call. We passed within 100 meters of it, and every radio frequency on our board spiked at once. Dozens of voices flooded through the speakers, all overlapping. Breach on lower decks. Turn back. They follow heat. Do not illuminate the water. The captain slammed his fist against the console. They never retrieved her. That's why the signal repeats. But as the wreck slid by, I saw something else. The windows of the Nurka glowed faintly, flickering like candlelight. Figures moved inside, 7 of them, perfectly still silhouettes, standing shoulder to shoulder, staring through the glass. I stumbled back from the porthole. "Captain, I see them," he whispered. "Don't look again." But I had already had. And in that instant, I realized those figures weren't standing inside the wreck. They were reflected in our own window. The lights went out again. This time, the generator didn't kick back in. We drifted through darkness for what felt like hours. When power finally returned, every clock on the bridge showed a different time, some hours ahead, some years. The captain stared at his wristwatch, shaking his head. We weren't supposed to come this far north. I asked him what that meant. He pointed at the chart table, at a hand-drawn circle around a blank patch of sea labeled only Echo Trench, Contact Zone. The distress channel flickered alive again, unprompted. "Mayday, this is the Mariner's Gate, 7 lights below, they're watching." Except this time, it wasn't my voice, it was the captain's, and he was standing right beside me.
We all froze when the radio repeated the captain's voice, the exact tone, cadence, and phrasing, every syllable. He leaned closer to the console. "Turn it off," he whispered, but the speaker hissed louder. "This is the Mariner's Gate, 7 lights below. They're watching." The echo continued, looping, distorting itself until it sounded like a chorus. The sound didn't just fill the room, it vibrated through it. The steel deck trembled, the sonar flickered, the entire communication rig surged with static. Then every screen on the bridge showed the same thing: coordinates, the exact spot where the Nurka had vanished decades ago. The captain ripped the headset off and threw it. "No one responds. No one says a word. That's not us. It's never us." Oleg crossed himself, muttering, "It's the echo, the one the fleet warned about." "The echo?" I asked. He didn't answer. The captain did. "Black frequency. It's what the Russians called it. Chornya Sidval. They said it mimics distress calls, voices, even commands. Once you answer, it finds you." The deck lights dimmed. The engine room called over the intercom. "Sir, something's draining the power. We're reading amperage spikes from the hull." The captain pressed the intercom button, but before he could speak, his voice came back through the speaker from below deck. "Keep calm. It's only the current. Stay at your stations." He hadn't said that. I looked at him. His knuckles were white on the console. "Shut it down," he said. "Now." But the voice, his voice, continued giving orders. The crew hesitated. Which voice did they obey? That's when the lights went red. The emergency beacon switched on automatically. 1 long pulse, followed by 2 short, a distress code, but no one had activated it. The radio flickered again, switching channels by itself. Every frequency between 4 and 8 megahertz
pulsed with sound. It wasn't static, it was breathing. Slow, heavy, synchronized with the hum of the ship. "Cut the power to comms," I said. "No," the captain whispered. "If it's listening, cutting the signal tells it we're aware." He opened the logbook again, flipping through sealed pages until he found another section, one I hadn't seen before. Black frequency response, Tier 3. If you hear your own voice transmitted, do not acknowledge, maintain silence. Visual confirmation prohibited during emission intervals. Report only once intervals cease. It was dated 1963. Same handwriting as the Project Frostbite documents I'd once seen during an internship. The fog outside thickened, curling against the windows. Shapes moved within it, faint, tall silhouettes walking across the deck, but there was no sound of footsteps. 7 figures again, always 7. Oleg whispered, "They're the ones who speak back." I blinked, and they were gone. The captain slammed the hatch shut and locked it. "No one opens that door. Whatever's on deck stays there." The sonar pinged again. This time, the 7 returns were above us, floating, in the fog. "Sir," I said quietly, "they're not underwater anymore." The captain looked at the radar, blank, then at the sonar, active. "He don't reflect light," he murmured, "only sound." Something tapped against the glass viewport beside me. I turned. Handprints, perfectly human in shape, but glowing blue, like frozen phosphor residue. Each print appeared one after another until 7 distinct impressions framed the window, not pressing in, just resting there, observing. We couldn't move. And then, just as suddenly, the prints vanished, evaporated into mist. The radio clicked once more. "Observation complete. Alignment stable. Await next surface interval." Same words, same voice as before. Only this time, the transmission didn't come from outside. The source, according to the signal meter, was inside the ship. The captain's eyes met mine. "He don't record ter fix," he said. "Every word." He tore out the log page, crumpled it, and threw it into the incinerator hatch. The paper hissed and turned black, but the words didn't burn. They glowed. The ink shimmered like the same bioluminescent blue we'd seen in the water. We watched in silence as the flames went cold, extinguished by frost forming around the hatch. Something outside struck the hull once, hard enough to knock tools from the rack. The ship groaned, metal bending under unseen pressure. The sonar lit up again, this time with one massive contact rising from beneath the 7 smaller ones. Depth reading 40 meters, 30, 25, the captain whispered. "It's surfacing." Then the signal stopped completely. Every gauge went dead. The ocean fell silent until a voice whispered directly through the metal inside my headset. "Next interval, you." When the voice whispered, "Next interval, you," I yanked the headset off like it burned. But I still heard it, not through the speakers, through the metal, through the air itself. The captain barked, "All stations, report," but no one answered. The intercom light flickered on its own, replaying snippets of voices that weren't ours. "Surface interval 1 complete. Visual confirmation received. Maintain containment perimeter." Each line came from a different part of the ship: engineering, mess hall, even crew quarters. But those compartments were empty. I checked the internal monitors. The live feeds were filled with static, except one. Camera 12, the aft deck. 7 shadows stood facing the sea, motionless, not crew, too tall, too narrow. And even through night vision, they radiated that same cold haze we'd seen on sonar. The captain leaned over my shoulder. "They've boarded," I whispered. "What are they waiting for?" He didn't answer. He just reached for his pocket, the logbook again. But before he could open it, Oleg grabbed his arm. "Sir, look." The ink was bleeding through the pages, forming new words, right there, in real time. Interval 2, assimilation. Maintain auditory silence. Record behavioral response. Do not resist proximity. Assimilation? I repeated. The captain shut the book with a snap. They're rewriting the protocol. That's when the ship lurched, as if something underneath had latched on. The floor plates shuddered, bolts rattling loose. "Engine room, respond!" No reply. We grabbed flashlights and made our way below deck. The power had gone out completely. Only the red emergency lights painted the narrow corridors. As we descended, we saw frost forming on the bulkheads. Not condensation, actual sheets of ice crawling over metal. Then we found them. 3 engineers, frozen mid-motion. Their skin pale as candle wax, their eyes wide open, encased in translucent frost. But their mouths were moving, slow, soundless, as if speaking in reverse. Oleg whispered, trembling. "Their breath, it's still coming out." I could see it, faint vapor escaping their lips, but the air wasn't warm. It was colder around them, like their exhalations were pulling heat from everything nearby. The captain closed his eyes for a moment. "They're broadcasting." "What are they broadcasting?" I asked. He turned to me. "Coordinates for the next contact." Suddenly, the frozen men snapped their heads toward us, all 3 at the same time. Then, every radio on board switched on by itself. Interval 2 complete. Proceed to next vessel. A second later, the ice shattered, not from heat, but pressure, like the men imploded from within. Shards scattered across the deck, glistening under the red light. We ran. The corridors felt narrower, the air heavier. Somewhere above us, metal creaked, a groaning sound that didn't belong to any part of the ship. When we reached the control room again, I noticed something new on the radar. A reflection beneath us. Same shape, same size, same heading. It mirrored every movement we made. I thought it was a glitch until Oleg said, "Sir, it's us. It's broadcasting our signal back to ourselves." The captain stared at the screen, whispering, "Shadow vessel." Then, as if in response, the radio flared back to life. "Surface interval approaching. Synchronize ascent." The entire hull vibrated. I ran to the viewport and saw another Mariner's Gate rising from below, an exact copy of our ship, moving upward, ghost-like, passing through the layers of dark water as if reality was folding. The captain's face went pale. "They're duplicating us." On the phantom deck, I saw movement. 7 figures again, standing in the same positions as we were, mimicking every motion, every step. When I lifted my hand to the glass, one of them lifted theirs, but the reflection was delayed by a full second. "Sir," I whispered, "it's not a reflection." The captain turned. "Then what is it?" Before I could answer, the doppelganger ship flickered, and then its lights went out completely. The sonar pinged one last time. 2 returns merged into one, and for a moment, every instrument on the bridge showed double readings. 2 ships occupying the same space, same depth, same frequency. Then silence. Every gauge reset to 0. Every display turned black. Only the old logbook remained illuminated, glowing faint blue as the ink shifted again. Interval 3. Merge complete. Await replication. That was the last entry written by anyone on record. But the distress call we intercepted last month, broadcasting from the Bering Strait, used our exact call sign. When the signal first came through, we thought it was interference from naval frequencies. But the encryption key was unmistakable, our own. That should have been impossible. Our ship's transmitter had been dismantled, logged, and sealed away after the incident. Yet the beacon carried our unit tag, our timestamps, and even the captain's voice, replayed in fragmented bursts like a broken prayer. Surface interval complete. Maintain duplication. Interval 4 active. Command tried to jam it. Nothing worked. The signal adapted, shifting frequencies, bouncing between satellites as if it knew we were listening. By the third day, NORAD had traced it to a point halfway between Alaska and Siberia, directly above the trench where we'd lost contact decades ago. I shouldn't have gone back. But when they said they needed someone familiar with the system logs, someone who'd seen the first wave of data, I agreed. I told myself it was just another salvage up, a cleanup mission. But the truth is, I needed to know what had surfaced. We boarded a new vessel, the Artemis. Brand new electronics, state-of-the-art encryption, nothing from the old fleet. Still, when we powered the radar, the first return it painted looked horribly familiar. Same shape, same dimensions, the Mariner's Gate. Except it wasn't floating. It was hovering 10 meters above the waterline, motionless, like gravity had stopped applying. The captain, a new one, not mine, whispered, "That can't be right." I said nothing, because I could see what he couldn't, the faint shimmer underneath it. A perfect mirror reflection, as though the ocean itself had frozen. Then the broadcast resumed. Interval 4. Transmission confirmed. Secondary vessel acknowledged. The comms officer ripped off his headset. "Sir, it's copying our signals before we send them." The words hit me like a hammer. That's what happened before. That's what started it all. "Cut the link," I shouted. "Shut everything down." But it was too late. Every monitor flickered, showing our own live camera feed, except for one difference. There were 2 of each of us on the screen. Same movements, same positions, but the background behind the duplicates was inverted. The sky was pitch black, the ocean blinding white like a film negative. The captain ordered, "Hard reverse, get us out of range." The engines roared, but the ship didn't move. "The thrusters are online, sir. We're not accelerating." Then the lights dimmed. The air grew heavy, like the atmosphere thickened around us. The sea below wasn't moving anymore. It was perfectly still, like glass. And beneath that glass, a second horizon emerged. Clouds, ships, even the faint glimmer of sunlight, all upside down. Oleg used to say, "The ocean doesn't reflect, it remembers." Looking down that day, I understood what he meant. The Mariner's Gate wasn't a ship anymore. It was a blueprint, something that had learned how to build a second world from memory. "Sir," the comms tech whispered, "it's transmitting through us now." The captain stared at the deck as the metal began to vibrate in slow rhythmic pulses, like a heartbeat. Every light flickered in sync. 1, 2, 3. Pause. Then again. Morse code. I recognized it instantly. It spelled a single word, mirror. A deep groan echoed from beneath, the kind of sound pressure makes when metal starts to yield. The sonar screen filled with noise, too dense, too uniform to be random. It was language, structured frequency bands rising and falling like breath. The captain turned to me. "Pale, translate it." I stared at the waveform. "It's not English. It's us. It's replaying our own transmissions, but backwards." At that moment, all comms cut out again. Every radio, every circuit, dead. And in the silence, I heard a faint tapping from the bulkhead behind me. Someone or something was knocking. Slow, deliberate. 12 beats. The same rhythm the old logs called the observation interval. The captain raised his gun toward the wall, but I pressed his arm down. "Sir, wait," because from the steel came a voice, Mine, interval 5, begins when the listener responds. That's when the lights went out. We never saw the Mariner's Gate again after that night, but the signal never stopped. It still repeats every few years, only detectable in narrow bands below civilian frequencies. Last time, it carried something new, a header with my own clearance ID from a system that hasn't existed since 1993, and next year, the signal's trajectory will align directly above the Arctic Circle, where the Navy's launching a new deep-sea research platform. If they hear it too, we'll know it's still learning.
Weeks after the storm and the final ghost call, the sea seems calmer, but only on the surface. The crew grows quiet, avoiding Channel 16 as if it carries a curse. I spend my night staring at the recorder's playback, where fragments of voices still bleed through static. Help, they're still here. When we dock in Dutch Harbor, the company confiscates all tapes and radios. They tell us the distress calls were a frequency mirage. I almost believe it until I notice something in the audio spectrogram I secretly copied, hidden under the final SOS in faint Morse code. We are you. For a moment, I think it's a glitch. Then my ship-issued radio, supposedly deactivated, crackles once more with that same low, impossible frequency. And this time, it speaks my name.